It's mid-season in the Boston Commons Little League. Let's listen in on one parent's conversation with the coach.
Hey, Jimmy, when you going to put my son Joey out there?
Well, Tommy, he's just going to have to wait his turn like everybody else, you know? This is baseball, big-time Little League baseball.
Yeah, but little Joey hasn't played in the last 3 games.
Giancarlo, you're up next.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, man.
Oh, man, that ain't fair.
This is Little League. You have to learn it's a hard life early on. Besides, everybody gets a trophy at the end of the year, right? Okay, Guerrero, you're up next. Welcome to Baseball Biz. I'm Mark Corbett, your host, and with me today is none other than Mr. Brandon No Way. Hey, Brandon, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, Mark. How about you?
Man, I have had an exciting week. It's supposed to be a week off in baseball, but I got a home run derby and then an all-star game last night.
Yeah, we take no weeks off, even though we did take last week off.
Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, nobody needs to know that.
Oh, gosh. But it's been fun. We've got a lot of exciting things going on. Got to see, like I said, the home run derby the other day. And if you haven't listened to our most recent episode, actually, this is the most recent episode. If you haven't listened to the episode before this one, go ahead and do so. We talk about the home run derby, the excitement, the activity, the fun, even the arts that were involved with the game. So I think you'll definitely enjoy that certainly as much as you will this one. Does that sound a little confident?
Yeah.
Well, and you got to have confidence, man. Think about the confidence all those guys had to have to be in the home run derby the other night. And to have the confidence for both the pitchers and the batters last night, because they were both facing top talent in MLB. You know, in some cases, batters or pitchers that they may never see much of because they're in a whole other league. So National League and American League. And before we go any further, Brandon, I want to say 8 straight.
Yeah, 8 straight. That streak feels like it's been going on forever. It's like the National League just doesn't win.
No, I know. And Dave Roberts has to be scratched ahead of the rest of them. I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine. You know, there they are at Coors Field yesterday. You got Kevin Cash leading the American League. You got Dave Roberts of the Dodgers, and there he is leading the National League. Both teams with top talent. And for 8 years, the American League has continued to bully up on the National League. What's that about?
Although I do think the National League does have the better record when it comes World Series time, so I'm sure they'll take that trade-off.
Yeah, I guess, if you say this is a glorified exhibition game compared to the final championship, the Midsummer Classic doesn't have quite the, what I'm going to say, panache, cachet, prestige that the World Series has. Well, this was an opportunity for Kevin Cash to say, hey, Dave Roberts, bye-bye. You know, you may have gotten me and my team at the World Series, but we're going to get you today. Oh, but the good thing was it's a great game. It's good-natured. There was some banter back and forth between the managers and the players, and we'll get into some of that in a minute. But first, I want to talk about, the clown show that they called the pregame at the on Fox yesterday. I don't know about you, but here I am, and the two people who I look at the clown show, the ones I have the most respect for, A-Rod and Big Papi. Okay, Big Papi, I expect a lot of fun and silliness and all that, whether he's smoking cigars, throwing around fake money, or whatever, or making jokes about J-Lo. I don't know if he did that this year, but, and look at there, and he's across from him is the would-be Mets owner. It would be any team that will allow me to buy part of them with J-Lo, A-Rod. And I don't feel like they bring a lot to these games, man. I think they both have a limited number of stories to tell, and they may have already told them all.
Yeah, and A-Rod actually was able to buy a team. He's part owner of the Timberwolves, or at least he's going to be. I don't know if he's officially the owner now, but I actually didn't watch the pregame show this year. Never really watched the All-Star Game pregame show. It seems like it just gets repetitive because they talk about the same thing like the past couple days. But
So you don't feel like you're missing out, Brandon?
no, not really. Even though I do like listening to them on some things.
Well, you know, the interesting thing was the game was being played on Fox as well as the pregame show, but ESPN had Baseball Tonight playing just a half hour before all this. And that was interesting because you had Tim Kirkjian. Let's try it again. You have Tim Kirkjian and Eduardo Perez, who I adore. Eduardo, to me, he's got the background. I mean, here's a guy who played not only here with MLB, but he also played across the water in the Nippon League as well. So you've got a guy who has insights above and beyond just our league, but he knows the rules. He knows the players. He knows what to expect out on the field, and he knows the history. So when he's talking, I feel like I get so much more than, say, A-Rod or Big Papi. So I was glad to sneak in and catch some of that before the game.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite announcers, and maybe that's just because he has more experience than the other two, and that will just come with time. But, I mean, just hearing him talk, it makes it feel like a big-time game, even though it is only the All-Star game, which is still a pretty big game, but it's not like big-time like, say, the ALCS or the World Series. Like, that's what I think of when I hear him talk.
But you got to wonder, does that All-Star Series have the prestige of looking better on the resume? So by the time saying somebody who's in pre-arbitration, if they make it here, will their ability to ask for more come arbitration time be, bonused up? Will they be able to get a little bit more money? I don't know.
I think it definitely does.
Well, so there is that part of the game. That's above and beyond. I also want to say kudos to Fox for taking the time to do a feature and a presentation about good old number 44, Hank Aaron, who passed this last year. I thought that was thoughtful, and and having a Billy Aaron out there as well in the family, I thought it was good that they were saluting him, and I think they even put the number 44. They cut that into the lawn of the outfield. So a lot of nice moments there pregame. But then the game began, and the lineup was called. And let's start with reserved for the American League. And who was doing that? Was that a field announcer? Who was announcing the lineups?
I want to say it was Joe Buck, but if it wasn't, it was a guy that sounded just like him.
Yeah, well, whoever that guy was, he needs to get it together, because he took one of my favorite players, Mr. Mike Zunino. Not Zanini. How did he say it? But Zanini. What did he say? Zunino. Okay, Mike, we're sorry. It's somebody on a national level. When you're playing an all-star game, major national platform, does not know how to say your name. Somebody take that announcer behind the woodshed and give him some help. I mean, there's pronunciation guides for MLB, for goodness sakes. So anyway, that's my take on the lineups, which was exciting to me to watch it, because they did give the reserves first. They had them line up on the first base line and the third base line. So I was glad that they didn't get lost. So they do the reserves first, then they do the starting lineup, and they're coming out of the dugout. I didn't know if you noticed, it seemed like they had it blocked off because they didn't want anybody seeing who was coming out of that dugout except the next person. So bam, one after another they come out. So it gives each one of them that moment for themselves, or those few seconds. So I enjoyed that too.
Yeah, I did think that was kind of weird that they had those boxes there, but now that you say it, maybe it was, to give them their own spot and not have anybody else in the background. Maybe that's what it was for. And
as they were doing all this, not surprisingly, as players are being announced, when it came to the name, this is a third baseman, Nolan Arenado, the crowd went crazy. I mean, he had played with the Rockies for God knows how long, and that was definitely a large Rockies contingent in the crowd. I think they applauded him for like a minute. I mean, they had like a standing ovation that lasted probably 3 or 4 times longer than any applause for any other player out there.
And that was a well-deserved applause, too, because he went out the right way. He didn't really bash anybody. He said that I don't really agree with the way this organization is going. I would like to be traded somewhere else. Like, he did it the right way. He didn't bash anybody or call anybody names. He kept it professional. Said that he just didn't like where it was going and he wanted to go win and he didn't feel like he could do it there. And he went to the Cardinals, who do a pretty good job of winning anyways. So I thought that was a really great welcome for someone who deserved it.
I do as well. So I really enjoyed all that. And I thought Arenado, he deserved that attention, and he is a top shelf guy. I'll just say that. He's somebody that people can look up to, not just as a player, but as a person. So that being said, past the lineup, I want to talk, Brandon, about the arts, the blending of the arts with sports. As I was growing up, one of the things that I was always interested in seeing was a painter who painted quite often for Sports Illustrated by the name of Leroy Neiman. And he had these crazy paintings of players, of events. I mean, he would cover everything from a pool room to a blitz to having a player like, Yastrzemski out there. So he did all these things. So I was always interested to see the arts and how that would blend with baseball. I haven't seen so much of it lately, but until the last couple of years. Part of that, we've seen with the bats and the shoes. I mean, you saw the bats that Pete Alonso had.
Yeah, and, a lot of sports are going this way where they're letting, players more show who they are, whether it be through their cleats or even in baseball now their bats, even though those look like they were more team designed than, individual players. But we are seeing now where players can be more themselves and show it. And it's actually looking really cool out there with all of the cool designs that they have on their cleats. Some of them even look like just regular sneakers.
Yeah, Alonso showcased an artist by the name of Gregory Siff. And I'm sure if anybody wants to see what he's done, you go ahead, and the last name is Siff. And some really great artwork. I've also found some interviews with him. Quite a bit of exciting stuff going on there. So I was glad to see that. Then if you look at the arts, also, one player who's not able to play right now because of a terrible injury, and hopefully he'll be back, and that's Acuna Jr. And the shoes that he wore, I was looking at about a week ago, man, he had some crazy stuff out there. He's got, a special artist who comes in, does the shoes up with some ideas and designs he has, and it's exciting. So seeing the arts involved in the game was kind of a fun part for me. But one more thing. How do the arts become involved with the game in the All-Star game? I guess you could say the design of the uniforms. Didn't you love those All-Star game uniforms? Weren't they splendiferous?
Well, I could say there is an S word out there that I can use to describe it. I can't say it on this podcast because we try to be a family show, but
yes,
I'll just leave it at there. I thought they were horrendous.
Horrendous. Okay, I'd have to agree with you. And it was interesting. They did a few things differently this year, and I'll tell you what I have to think about those in a minute. But one of the things in the past, I think they may have had special All-Star uniforms. I think that they wore like the day before for some of the photos. But once these players took the field, it was very obvious the team that they played for. I don't mean the team, whether or not it was American or national, but I'm talking about if it's Chicago White Sox or whatever. So you're able to quickly identify that. I guess they were looking for some kind of uniformity, bad joke, uniformity. And, with having the home team having a white, outfit, and the team, the visiting team being American, they had a blue outfit. So that gave some quick identity to those teams. And then they tried to still give some identity to where they came from. So you might see a big B on the chest for somebody who was from Boston, or with a BOS. And God, it was awful looking though, man. And they looked so thin. They looked like pajamas.
I thought they looked like how, like 80s and 90s, like basketball warm-up suits that they would wear. Yeah. I thought that's what they looked like. At least the American League ones. And I just thought they were so ugly. They were plain. the left side looked crammed with all the lettering there and then nothing on the right. I mean, we've talked about this multiple times. I liked it better when they each wore their own individual team's uniform, because you could like pick out and find your favorite player.
Yeah.
And I saw this morning on Dan Patrick, they were talking about that. And they showed team photos from the 70s. And each team wore like their alternate uniforms. So you had all the different colors of the rainbow. And it's like, that would be so cool to see. But instead we got these, I mean, I call them Little League uniforms, but that'd be a compliment to them.
I know. I said I thought pajamas. You saw warm-up suits, and I also saw prison uniforms too, with the lettering there on the left. I thought, yeah, that could be prison number 578-238. That's what I was looking for. I said, no, this is what. And I understand they try to go with a theme. They try to go with red, white, and blue. White being the predominant color again for the home team, and dark blue being the predominant color for the away team, the American League. But they all had a nice little American flag on the side, and that looked great on the white national. I shouldn't put those two words together. On the white, on the white uniform that the national team wore, and but man, when you saw the American League wearing that dark blue uniform and the American flag on their shoulder patch, it was not the traditional American flag. It was red. All the stripes, I think all the stars, well, not all the stripes, all the blue stripes were now red. All the stars were red. And I thought, good gravy, man, that just looks ugly. And some people would say maybe it's even disrespectful, but I'm not going to go there. I think I'll just stop with saying it's ugly.
Yeah, and I hope it's something they don't do again. Like this was just a one-time thing, because these were ugly. I mean, for the home run derby, that's fine like they would usually do.
Yeah.
But hopefully they don't do this for the All-Star game again. Or if they do, at least do better looking uniforms, because these were fugly.
Oh, I have to agree with you there. All righty, brother. Well, let's see. I do want to talk about some of the other fun of the game, and that was having all these guys mic'd up. Now, what's been your opinion overall about having players mic'd up in the middle of a live game?
I mean, I love it. I think, the All-Star games are perfect for it, at least to do like the live conversation mic'd up. But any game where you get a guy mic'd up and you can just get his live reaction, even though it's not live, it's recorded. But like how most leagues do a mic'd up segment, I think those are great because you can actually hear what's going on. And I like when they were just talking to Freddie Freeman and Aaron Judge was about to walk and he was like, I'm about 6'5", but I'm going to look really short here in just a moment. And then I believe one guy actually, there's a pitcher, I can't remember his name, but like he threw a pitch in the dirt when he was mic'd up live and he just dropped a swear word.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like, those are the moments I love.
Yeah, that was, who was it? Liam, what's Liam's last name? I can't think
was
of
it.
it.
Liam Hendricks?
Yeah, Liam Hendricks. It was in the ninth inning. So, yeah, I heard that too. He had the mic, and we'll talk about, I'm going to kind of go down inning by inning what some of those things sounded like. And I got to tell you, though, as a general rule, I hate those things. I think they impede the game. But because this is the All-Star game and the significance of a win or loss not going to hurt a team, it doesn't bother me as much. The first inning was interesting too. Like you said, Freeman was mic'd up, and they talked to him about being side by side with Aaron Judge. He's 6'5", and Aaron Judge is 6'7". And then when Judge got there on a walk, Ohtani, yeah, that was first inning. Yeah, he walked him, I think, up to there, and wow, he says something to Judge, and Judge smiles and says something back, and he says, "Oh, by the way, I'm mic'd up," and and I think Judge went silent after that. That was kind of interesting.
And to touch on what I said earlier, it was Liam Hendricks, and he ended up saying, "Gosh dang it."
Yeah.
When he threw it in the dirt. He just didn't say that.
Yeah, he just, okay, well, that was kind of ugly. But yeah, I saw that, and it's, you know that, guess what? You're on a live situation. Things happen. Sometimes they shouldn't, but things happen, and that certainly did with him. Let's see.
Whoops,
indeed. The first inning, too, when Xander Bogaerts, he's mic'd up at bat. Okay, here we are. He's mic'd up, And they're talking to him while he's trying to bat. And I'm going like, come on, is this crazy or what? And they're asking him, so Xander, what do you think this next pitch is going to be? What are you looking for? And he says, fastball. And all my mind can go to is that catcher hear this and then signal the pitcher, hey, he thinks it's a fastball. Why don't you go ahead and send him this instead? Send him a changeup.
Throw him your slowest pitch possible.
There you go. I thought that was pretty crazy. Then one of the nice moments in that first inning, too, was, when Vlad Jr. at the end of one of the half innings, he walked up out there on the mound and gave Max Scherzer a big hug. And I thought that was pretty good. So that was like at the first half, after the first half of the first inning. So that was good. Tatis Jr. was mic'd up. And, and he was he was asking about a comparison between, I think, Tatis Jr. and his dad. And also he was asking, I guess, about Vlad, which was interesting because while he's talking about Vlad decides to hit a home run. Boom.
His reaction was great. He was like, oh, Lord.
Yeah, he just kind of buried his head in his glove, and that was that. And I love it. He said, "What, you going to say anything to Vlad?" So as Vlad passes by him, and my Spanish is non-existent, so he says something to him in Spanish, and I was like, yeah, you know what? Because these two guys, to hear the stories they tell, Tatis Jr. was talking about like how they were pretty much, I wouldn't say raised together, but they did a lot of things side by side, which was interesting. And going back to when I was talking about the clown show earlier with Big Papi, Big Papi has a story that he told twice yesterday, but it was, and I'll probably do that here. But anyway, he did talk about Tatis Jr. and knowing him as a child, he had a photo to share and all that. So it is interesting when you look across the baseball community and you see these relationships, some great players out there who've learned from other great players or who've been surrounded by great players. So not surprising. But one of the most interesting to me was the top of the fourth. And the Rockies Marquez, he's pitching. He's pitching to Kansas City Salvador Perez. Now remember, Perez, if you haven't listened to the Home Run Derby episode, you need to now. Perez was the guy who had to go toe-to-toe with Pete Alonso in the first round. And while Perez had a great round, I think it was like 28 home runs at his first round, and I think 4 of the guys were less than that, because he was head-to-head with Alonso, he was not able to move forward. But this guy, he's big. And when I look at him for a catcher, I can see why you'd want him there. He block balls that would maybe go as wild pitch, etc. But as he was at bat, and Marquez is pitching to him, the ball goes right by Perez's head. He safely ducks. He takes a couple of steps back away from the plate, and then he sends this nasty look back to Marquez, and then he begins to take a step toward him, and then he takes a step back and just sends this big giant freaking smile to Marquez. I wish one of them had been mic'd up at that point.
I think it would be funny to have like a fake fun charging of the mound during an All-Star game.
Well, that almost was. The catcher did look up. I should say not Salvador Perez, but Marquez's pitcher did look up. I can't remember who that was. Said, what's happening? But
it's like when Brett Phillips did it the other week.
Oh yeah. You gotta have fun. Remember, baseball. Brett Phillips is out there selling T-shirts now, folks. It says baseball is fun. I'm so glad to hear that, Brett. Thank you very much.
He's out there doing reporting for the All-Star Week.
Yeah, what was he? He was doing something for MLB on Instagram, I believe, wasn't he?
He was. I didn't really watch much of it. I just saw some clips that the Rays posted. Huh. I saw him that he was like a bouncer for the mascot entrance, asking for credentials.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
it was pretty goofy.
Well, you think about these guys, even though they're this young, what's going to be their career post-baseball? And I think it'll be fun to watch Brett for years to come as a player, and then whatever he winds up doing afterwards. I don't know.
I think he should specialize in laugh track creations.
Oh, yeah, he could do some of the cartoon laugh tracks with that big old harsh laugh he has, but he's great. Let's see, man. I'll kind of go through some of the other ones real quick here. Top of the fifth, I like the mic'd up on that because they have Dave Rogers. They had Dave Roberts up there, the manager of the national team, and a cancer survivor, and he became part of this whole big deal they did during the All-Star game about fighting cancer, stand up, against cancer, and I was really glad to hear him tell his story there. But the other part of that top of the fifth inning is once they did that, they kind of split the screen, and they had Dave Roberts on the right side as the national manager. On the left side, they had the American League manager, Kevin Cash. And it was neat because in the middle of the screen, they actually inserted the game. And then left and right, you got both managers. And they're asking them stories back and forth. And some of it was pretty simple. I mean, some of it sounded like a mutual admiration society. But nonetheless, it was interesting to see the face-to-face and hear some of the things they had to say. One of them happened when Vlad Jr. in that inning hit a ground ball, which basically came a sacrifice as he ran to first, and another base runner came in. So, and they said, well, small ball's here still. it makes a difference. Yeah. Well, I think one last thing I have on the mic then, and that was Kevin Cash. Who'd have guessed it? When he had a pitcher out there who was suffering, he went over to the bullpen phone and was calling for someone, and they had the phone mic'd up. I don't know if he knew that or not. And you hear this guy, oh, you got somebody out there ready to come up? Okay, make sure he starts pitching now. And it's like, what? But I wonder if Kevin knew that.
I hope he did, because imagine if he said like something that could be taken as bad.
Well, I said that was the last of the mic'd up comments, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about the ninth inning because Liam Hendricks, who we spoke about earlier, who had the mic and earpiece on, and I don't know if he had it on, if he knew he had it on some of the time, because they were talking to him. I thought, okay, the guy's pitching. To me, this is as crazy as having Bogaerts mic'd up while he's batting, but maybe even more so, because the pitcher has to be thinking strategy through every pitch, what he's going to do. He's trying to communicate with the catcher through signals and all that, and still have you in his ear. It was kind of weird. And as you pointed out, at one point he didn't have a pitch he liked, and had a few swear words come out there. But as he's pitching, at one point, it looks like he wants to have a conference with Zunino, by the way, who did fantastic all in all yesterday, bringing a home run into the game. Always like to see a home run in the game. And he and Zunino, the catcher, walks out there to talk to Hendricks, and lo and behold, says, you're mic'd up while we're talking about how this next pitch is going to go, okay? It was fun. It was crazy. Yeah, so some of the things I would absolutely be insane about doing during a regular game, I could deal with. But it was interesting, too, Brandon, when you think about who wasn't there. I mean, 4 Astros who had been invited, I believe, all said, no, thank you. Got other things I got to do. I need to heal. I need to worry about my health. And
it's convenient excuses.
Yeah, and one of the announcers, they were talking with Aaron Judge, and he said, Aaron, what do you think about that? These guys, there's 4 of them, they're not coming. I was like, why don't you go ahead and put him in a dirty spot for this game of goodwill? And he says, well, I think people are going to do things with their family and all that. I respect that. But Aaron, if it was you, would you be doing that? Would you be? And I thought they kept begging to try to get. He was smart enough to avoid biting into the trap of saying something about him. So kudos to Aaron Judge. I don't say that very often, but I'll say it right now.
Yeah, he probably knew that question was coming.
Yeah, it was nuts. And you looked at there some of the folks that came. Andrew Kittredge, he came out there. He got a late call to come to Coors Field. He did fantastic. Zunino, who wasn't on the originals, I believe, either. He came in. He was fantastic at catcher. And
Zunino was one of the originals. He was the original Rays player, but then Wendell and Kittredge were added in, who also got a hit as well, Joey Wendell.
So they were looking good. Rays had great representation. Kittredge did great on the mound. Zunino did good behind the plate. He had one wild pitch that unfortunately resulted into a run, and I don't blame him per se for that. Then another pitch which ran behind him hit the back wall. He got it, threw it to second, and bam, somebody's out. So that was interesting. And one other, Ray, I think that Kevin Cash probably brought some of his coaching team, including Ozzie Timmons. So that was neat to see.
I believe I saw Mottola run out there a couple of times too.
Yeah. That's who was the Rays pitching coach? What's his name? Kyle
Snyder?
Yeah, it's Kyle Snyder. Kyle Snyder came out there, and he was giving some advice to some of the other pitchers as well. So that was fun. The one thing, I was talking about the Astros not coming there because I imagine there'd be a lot of booing. I don't know that they would have gotten any more booing than Rob Manfred got, though, during the draft. I don't know if you saw the draft, boys and girls, but every time that poor soul came out there, and there's another one I can't say poor soul with Manfred. That poor soul came out to announce, and now the Colorado Rockies are up. So-and-so has accepted for whoever it was. Every time he came out to announce, there was a chorus of boos. And I thought those would slow down when I came back to watch the draft later on, and they were just as loud as when they first started out. So when he came out last night for the MVP to award that nice glass bat, the Ted Williams, I believe, award to Vlad Jr., and there were nothing but boos when Manfred was out there.
I think it's like a tradition for all the commissioners to get booed.
Well, he certainly upheld that, or the crowd upheld that tradition. But Manfred's, he's made some decisions that have been controversial. He's made some difficult decisions and things I don't agree with, including the contraction to the minor leagues. And, he and the Players Association had to make some decisions during COVID. Some of those decisions were about the length of the game. So there would be, doubleheaders would have to be 7 innings. And anything that went into extra innings was going to have a man on second. 10th inning thereon, you would have a man on second.
And I'm curious, Mark, did you like those new rules? Because I kind of hope that they would stay.
I have mixed feelings about the 7-inning rule. For doubleheaders, it's okay. I'm not so much opposed to that as I really do like the idea of having a man on a runner, if you will, on second in the 10th inning and any other inning past that, because I think it livens up the game. People who would otherwise leave would love to come back and say, oh, look, the inning's begun. There's no outs, no pitches, and there's a man on second. Heck, first man up. We got a chance to go ahead and break this. So I do like the man on second rule.
Yeah, I like the man on second rule. I think is really good. I would like to see him maybe try him starting at first just to see how that would work, but I like the man on second. The 7-inning rule for doubleheaders, I like too. I wish they would count them as official games for no-hitters, but that's another topic for another day. But I hope we don't like them too much or get attached to them, because according to good old Bobby Manfred, those could be going away after this year.
Well, let's see. I'm sure that'll probably be part of the collective bargaining agreement with the Players Association, so we'll see. And let's take a little transition here from something else that was a little bit more fun, and that was a game that took place the day before the All-Star Games, and that was the All-Star Celebrity Game. Wow. You talk about insanity. What do you got? You got rappers, you got social media experts, and I think there were a few of them. You've got the Falcon out there from Marvel, and a assorted other bunch of folks. And
yeah, you got guys like Quavo, JoJo Siwa, The Miz was there, DK Metcalf, CC Sabathia, Hunter Pence, a whole bunch of guys that were on there. Even Von Miller of the Broncos, he was there. And Philip Grubauer, the Avalanche goalie, he was there. He had a single from what I saw. And I don't know about you, but the celebrity softball game is kind of like a guilty pleasure of mine.
Well, I keep waiting for the Bugs Bunny Space Jam for baseball to come out, but it was fun watching The Miz, whose knees all busted up, so he couldn't play, but he certainly, like any great professional wrestler, had plenty to say about putting some enthusiasm behind his team. But I enjoyed it. I mean, I didn't sit down and really watch it. I kind of came in and out and did some of that, but It was fun. It was fun.
It's funny to watch it. Like I believe his name was Karamo. He was a rapper. I'm probably saying that wrong. If I am, I'm sorry. He had like 3 errors, and everybody was giving him a hard time about it.
Ooh.
And it just looked like so much fun. It looks like kind of like what The Sandlot was like, but you have a bunch of celebrities and adults out there.
Yeah.
Everybody's just having fun. I thought it was awesome. I wish they maybe showed it earlier.
Yeah, because they put it late after the home run derby, and that's when it was actually played before all that. But they could have played it earlier in the day for the All-Star game, like 2 or 3 o'clock or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's all I got to say about all that. What about you?
I think that's it for me as well.
Okay. Well, boys and girls, we hope you enjoyed yet another edition of Baseball Biz. And we've been talking about the All-Star game, talking about the fun, talking about the players, talking about who was mic'd up, what was said, what maybe shouldn't have been said. And the one thing I want to remind everybody, whatever language you speak, any language that every player may speak, there's one language that they all speak, and that's baseball. So thank you again for joining us here today. Any last words, Brandon?
We all speak one baseball.
Amen. Okay. We may have copyright infringement with Manfred on that one. But all right, everybody. Thanks again for joining us here today on Baseball Biz, and we look forward to talking with you again real soon. Music by X Take RUX, Rocking Forward.